Hello, I'm Christopher,
Hi, I'm Charlotte.
and this is the intro because we just got done editing and I realized I didn't have an intro. Anyways, in this great video, I'm up potting an old jade plant. It's like 5, 6, 7 years old. It's very large. I up pot it to a larger pot, and then the pot breaks, and then I put it in its forever pot, which is huge. It's like 19 inches tall, nearly 24 inches across. It's massive. So we go into a lot of details. You see me actually doing it, and I talk about tips and tricks, so feel free to watch the whole thing. It should be a lot of fun. Right, Charlotte?
Right.
Okay, thanks. Here we go. As we begin, I wanted to show you how the jade looks right now. This is where it lives in the winter time. This is a north-facing window, and you can see what a lovely shape. And it's just sitting in this pot in a pot, kind of silly, but it worked really well. So for overwintering, I watered it maybe once a month. That's it. And it worked really nicely. But it's coming out of dormancy, and it's a little brittle, and it's ready to be up potted. So here we are, taking you outside in the shade so we can get some nice even lighting. You can see the jade plant right now. It's about 2 feet tall and almost 2 feet wide at the top. Really is a lovely structure. This is 6 going on 7 years old. Started from just a tiny little clipping. And you can see its new pot right next to it. It's slightly deeper. You can't tell because this is a little bit further into the ground. It's not perfectly level, but it's maybe 2 inches deeper, and it's much wider. It's 4 inches wider in the center and the diameter. So when we're replanting this, I will raise it up a little bit so there'll be room to grow down and room to grow on the sides. And our potting mix, I'm using a Miracle-Gro indoor potting mix. This is good. It's got some perlite, peat moss, coconut coir, that kind of stuff on the inside. Really good for this. Otherwise, you can use an African violet mix. I think, jade is native to South Africa, so those kind of potting mixes all work really well. The important part is that it's got good drainage. So let's get going. When you look inside the pot, near the pot base, you can see how much this has shrunk down over the years. It probably started up an inch higher, and then it just kind of got compact as it does. So when we transplant it, I'm going to want to bring it up right here to where the lip kind of curves down half an inch or so. You can feel it. It's hard to tell on camera, I know. You'll be able to feel it with what you have. So I've got, what do I have? 4 inches or so in the bottom of my pot. It's about a third full. That's good. Lightly packed. Hard to get this on camera, but I'm going to pull it up all in one thing. Gently knead the root ball, plop it in, and pack it around. So I'm putting my hand in, grabbing not too firmly at one of the main stalks, supporting the rest. Going to invert over the bowl. Because I haven't watered this in a little while, should be relatively straightforward. If you have a friend to give you a hand to pull, that would be good. I guess next, I'll just lay it, shake it a bit without snapping anything. There we go. Just enough to loosen it. Good. Let's take a look. You can see my drainage hole was at the bottom. Roots are growing all the way down. It's not too terrible. It's dry. It's relatively root bound, but we'll loosen those up with our hands. And I mean, look at this. Look at the distance here from the edge of this main stalk to the outside. It was running right up against it. So this will be happy with a lot more space inside here to grow. In fact, let me just bring you around to show you, right? Look at the difference. There's going to be a lot of space for this to grow. I just set it in gently. It's almost to the top. I'm going to put some more soil in. How's your jade doing? Have you had it for a while? You got a 7 or so year old like this? Did you inherit it from a family member and you don't know what to do with it? You nervous about up potting? All these things are kind of fun to think about. There we go. Oopsies. Little refuse. I just planted this big garden behind me too. So I'll rotate it around. And I'm going to center it not relative to the root ball itself, but to the stalks that I have. I've got 4 main stalks. I started with 2 once upon a time, and then 4 grew. I really love how they fanned out. From your perspective, it's narrow, but well, anyways, I'm centering it as it makes sense. So I think I'll turn off the camera and backfill. Okay, we have this in mostly. And you can see that I adjusted the angle, like this side is a little bit higher and this side is buried down, because as we back up, you can see that it makes more sense. The plant itself is more vertical now. It had grown a little crooked over time. So we were just readjusting for the sake of that. I may clip off some of these drooping ones and prune in the middle. A few days later. Oh, hi again, a couple days later. Remember when I transplanted my jade into this beautiful blue pot? Well, it fell and the pool at the bottom cracked. So now I got an even bigger pot, and this is going to be its forever pot. It's practically 2 feet wide in diameter, maybe 19 inches tall. That's going to be the forever pot. So I picked up another instant potting mix and this African violet. Just going to mix them both, a little bit of perlite, and I'm using some Miracle Grow. So we're going to be watering it along the way as we plant it. Fill up a base, moisten it, add it, a couple layers, water it as we go. I am not above using Miracle Grow, even just standard stuff on a jade. I've done it before, especially when we transplant. So here we go. So for anyone still watching, I'm making a mixture of my personal potting mix for my vegetable garden and the African violet. My personal potting mix is maybe 2 parts native soil, which is a clay mixture for me here, 1 part sand, 1 part perlite, and 2 parts peat moss. And that is still going to provide some optimal drainage for the jade while being good filler for the base in particular. That's why I brought this bucket over here, just to help find the right level, especially since I'm going up so many sizes. Like, it's a little unbelievable to think just how much bigger this is going to be when it's done. And it couldn't have come at a better time. My jade is ready to go. So when it's in here, the main level is going to be maybe 1 inch below the top of this rim. You don't want it to go flush, because right in the times when you're watering it, you don't want it to fly out. It's always nice to have a little bit of a lip in here just to control it, especially since I'm using an outdoor pot. But when I bring this in the winter time, I'm going to have a clay saucer underneath it, you know, for moisture retention. But this is almost never going to get soaked all the way through. It's so darn big. But I've got 4 huge holes on the bottom of this, so when I leave it out for the, 4.5, 5 months in the summertime, when it rains and rains, it'll just go right through, as it should. So now that I've got my base, I'm going to soak it pretty thoroughly. I've already broken up the root ball of my jade plant, and I want it to sink in. It's draining quite nicely. Don't need to go crazy. You can see, oh God, it's falling. There we go. Oh, cramp. Take 2. You can see I've got the bottom, my root ball broken up. These roots are ready to go. Go down, down, down. It almost looks silly. Now I start filling in the sides. Of course, trying to keep it as centered as possible. It is so significantly larger than it was before. It's a little ridiculous. I'm going to push down, kind of lock this in place. It's different than pushing in like plants in an outside garden. There you really want to push into the root ball. You know, when you think of jade plants, you think about drainage, so you don't want it too compact. But at the same time, if this is too light, the root ball that's in here is going to take a while to establish. And for the first while, you'd be able to just pull it right up while the roots are going into the soil. So I need it to be stable enough just on its own, but that isn't going to be the case. So let's water the middle section in. This is more water than the jade has gotten in a long time. This will help take it out of that winter dormancy. This and the fresh air and all the water and the nutrients, of course. That'll get it going. So for reference, this is my third and final bag. Plus a whole bunch of native soil. Always pays to have a couple 5-gallon buckets on hand. I'm sure you do. Camera works really great here, isn't it? You want to see it from the top? Let's take a look at what I'm seeing. So here's what it looks like from the top. You can see there's the top of the old ball. It's awfully root bound, and it's also hard as a rock, so I can't break it up too much more. But that will soften with the heat and the moisture, and those roots will start crawling out into this new space. So I filled it up to here. Now I'm going to fill the soil level about half, a centimeter above this line here, because I want to pack it down, not just come up to the edge. I want to pack it down. And I'll do that off camera. And here we are at last. You see the crown still hangs over the edge nicely, looking into the soil, going into the wide view. Really is quite nice. Right, there's that inch or so depth for moisture retention, spillage. Obviously leaves will fall. Something about it I always find charming when these leaves fall and just live on the top of the pot. Speaking of the leaves and the limbs falling, right, it's been giving signs that it wants to root. Obviously it's mature enough. These are small roots. In nature they would drop off and form new plants. So my most bendy one, I actually buried several roots over here, which is a good spot when you look at the pot for another stem to grow. Like this one fell, I think, last year, maybe 2 years ago, right in the middle. Kind of a stupid spot to be, but whatever. There's enough nutrients here to go around. There you have it. This is quite the uppotting going into its forever home. From this brown one to the blue one to the green one. The green one's got almost 15 gallons worth of soil in it, which is something when you think of it. It is a heavy beast. For me, taking it in and out twice a year, it'll be like the lift it up just a little bit, put it on a cart, take it out the patio door kind of situation. And eventually it'll get too big to go through the door. And that's cool. I'd like this plant to be akin to one of those that you like go into a hotel or a kitschy coffee shop and you see this giant 4-foot tall jade plant that you think, God, how old is that sucker? That's what I want this to be. And this is going on, I forget, 5-7 years, something like that. And it started off from You know, one plant that was about like this big, just tiny little thing. So give it time, give it the right conditions, and yours can be as spectacular as mine. So it works for me. I hope it works for you. And in another couple years, we'll give you an update and show you how well this transplant took. Maybe I'll talk about routine care. I should have put a video out this past winter. It flowered. It was quite beautiful. So how's your jade going? What are you planting? What do you think of this technique? Leave a respectful comment down below to help everybody else out. And happy gardening, guys. See ya.